Hello everyone, it's Tim from Arcana. Today's MEVO White Belt training video is all about provisioning routers. Now, there's two ways to provision routers. The first way is PNP, Cisco Plug and Play. This requires a separate MEVO license, so if you're setting up MEVO in a lab environment, you're not going to have access to this one. This way is fairly simple. The router just needs to have internet access, but it does need to be getting a DHCP address, and your DHCP server has to be passing an option 43 value. Once that's set up, you just power up the router, connect its WAN cable, and let it run, and that's pretty much all you have to do. Now, the method that this video will be covering is the SDP method, the Secure Device Provisioning. To do this method, your router must have a factory configuration. This is because normally when you get a router from Cisco, it doesn't come with anything on it. The router is blank, there's no configuration. If you get your router specifically ordered for Cisco Virtual Office or CVO, it comes with a factory configuration on it, which will get you internet access. This is because to do the provisioning process, you'll need to have a laptop or a computer connected to that spoke router, and you'll need to open up a web page and navigate to your provisioning URL. If you don't have a factory configuration, say you're setting this up in a lab or you're repurposing an older router, you can contact us and we will get a factory configuration built for you. With that being said, we can take a look at an actual provisioning so you can get a good example. Let's start by logging into the MEVO GUI and we can get started. Now, once we log in, the first thing that we want to do is go over to our groups page. The groups page is where we create all the different accounts, one for essentially each remote site that we will be provisioning. So let me create an account. So I'll do more actions and add. We'll call this a teleworker account because I will provision the router at my home. So we'll give this my name and let's just call this White Belt Training. Now, the password for this account doesn't matter. It's kind of a legacy feature. It's not really going to be used anywhere. So I'm just going to type in a single character because this literally does not matter. And let me put in an email address and let me set this to that 11.11.8 port and I'll go ahead and click OK. Then let me check the box and say more action request send request in order to get the provisioning ready for this account. The other way I can do it is I can just click on this button. And my home upload speed is about 10 megs, so let me set that. And now let me click send. And what we're waiting for is for this request status column to say ready. Once it says ready, we are good to provision our device. And there it is. Today's video is mostly going to be about that SDP process. So if you remember, in order to do that, I need to have a laptop that is cabled to my router and getting internet access through that router. So let me go and get that set up and we will be right back. Okay, I have my 11.11.8 port router all set up. My laptop is cabled to it. You can see here from my network settings on my MacBook that my Thunderbolt Ethernet is connected. It has an IP address of 10.10.10.2 with a router IP address of 10.10.10.1. Now, one of the ways you can tell if your router has a factory configuration on it is that configuration should always have the IP address of 10.10.10.1. I have also turned off my Wi-Fi. So let's just do a quick check and let's see if I can reach the internet. And I can reach Amazon. Perfect. And what I have in the background here is I do have a console cable connected to my router. This is not required. This is just for the sake of the video that you can see This is my router. It has barely any configuration on it. All this does is give me internet access. And so I'll just let this sit in the background so that you can see it being configured as we take it through the provisioning process. Now, you might have noticed when I submit my provisioning request, I got an email alert notification in the top right of my screen. So let me share with you that email that I got. And it says, Dear White Belt Training, and it gives me the instructions in order to provision my router. So this is going to be very simple. Let's simply just take the link provided in the email, and I'll put it in my web browser. And then I need to put in the username and password. So let's copy this, put that in, and let's copy the password and put that in. And then let's bring back our console connection so that you can see it in the background. And we'll sign in. And at this point, our router will begin the provisioning process. We might get a couple warnings or prompts that we need to click through, so we'll just click through all of them. One of the things you should know is the provisioning process works with Chromium browsers, so you must be using either Edge, Chrome, or Brave. It currently does not work with Firefox or Safari. So we'll click Send anyway. And now I need to provide the username of the account that I am provisioning. Again, this is MEVO White Belt. No, sorry, just White Belt Training. So we'll copy that. One other thing I should note, we logged into the provisioning page with this username and password. You can configure your provisioning to use a different set of credentials. So this is what we call one-time password because the MEVO server is emailing us the username and password that we should be using. You can have it set up to use an AD account, so you can log in with your AD credentials. You can also have it set up to use a separate Radius server. You can also have it set up to use your smart cards. So any of those options will work. The other thing that I should point out, if you've paid attention to our MEVO White Belt training series on architecture, this IP address, what do you think that is pointing to? That IP address is our STP router. Remember, our STP router needs to have a public IP address, and the STP router is what facilitates our provisioning process. So when we're going to this URL, we are going to our STP router. So let me continue and click Next. Let me bring my console session back so you can see it in the background. And after one more send anyway, we can see that our router is indeed getting its configuration. At this point, this screen is just going to be a progress message screen. It doesn't really mean too much. So I'm going to click on the console session just so we can kind of cheat and see the actual progress of our provisioning. Remember, you can always look on your router for that VPN light to turn on, and that will also tell you when your provisioning has completed. But if you do have a console connection, there are a few messages you can look for in order to tell when your provisioning has been completed, or in this case, when your tunnels have come up. We have some more complex MEVO deployments where we do a lot of other stuff once the tunnel has come up. For example, if you're configuring devices past that WAN edge, your provisioning is going to take longer because getting that initial tunnel set up is only the first step. After that tunnel set up, we still need to go into the rest of the devices in order to configure them. But what I can show you in our example is we can see that our certificate has been installed. We'll have a separate video going over how that certificate process works within the STP process. And we can see some syslog messages saying our EIGRP adjacency for our tunnel is now up. So I now know that my provisioning has completed. Now, there's one other tool I want to show you. Some of you might be using laptops with a lot of different security policies or antiviruses or other settings on it that maybe prevent the provisioning process from working with Chrome or Edge or Brave. Or maybe you're not even allowed to have those browsers installed on your laptop to begin with. In that case, you can contact our support and we can build for you an app. Let me show you what this app looks like. It is called Secure Deploy. This would also be considered an SDP provisioning type, and this simply replaces that web browser component. So I'm going to double click it and click Run. And basically, I'm just going to click through the prompts. It's going to validate that my router has the factory configuration on it. I'll need to provide my access credentials, so whether that's the username and password, if I need to supply my smart card, and I'll keep clicking next to the prompts, just like how we were doing with our standard web browser provisioning. If you have any questions, let us know.